Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, we are back. Films and Stuff. How are you today?
I'm great. Ethan, how are you?
Well, winter came for Game of Thrones, and now we start all over again.
We're back again in spring.
172 years earlier. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
House of the Dragon. We had GOT, now we've got HOD. I like it. So you and I both watched episode 1 breathlessly, may I add.
That's true.
What's your initial thought?
Okay. So it's complicated. I think the show has gone back to its roots all the way back. We're talking 10 plus years now to season 1 of Game of Thrones. Didn't hold back, seemed relatively era appropriate, if that makes sense, for a fantasy world anyway. I like that they introduced the dragons up front, so there's no question as to are we going to see dragons. You can tell that they've spent money on visual effects, on location effects, all of that. But I gotta say, I'm still holding a little bit of, I don't want to say resentment. I'm kind of holding myself back. It's kind of like the lover who's been scorned so many times in the past that I'm afraid to love again.
You can't love again, Pete.
And I think that's what's happened.
Open yourself up to love.
I think that's what's happened is every 5 minutes, I was just waiting for these guys to pull the rug out underneath me again. And I was really struggling because I kept over-analyzing as to, well, how are they going to turn this against me? Because this is an entirely fictional work, right? In the sense that, and when I say fictional, I mean actually an entirely original fictional work. This isn't based on any books, nothing like that. So it has no baggage, thankfully. But at the same time, it does know where the end game is. The end game is season 1 of Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, I guess in a broader sense. Do you know how many people watched this episode? You have any idea?
I don't know the exact number, but I read a ton of articles that said that this was HBO's most successful or most streamed product ever.
Do you want me to read what the viewership numbers were for Game of Thrones?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to go year by year. In millions. 9.3, 11.6, 14.4,
good God.
19.1,
oh my God,
20.2, 25.7, 32.8, 46 million.
I mean, that's unheard of. It's unheard of.
Yeah. It's like, so basically it went up 400+%, almost 500%, right? 9 times 5 is 45 in 8 seasons.
Jesus.
So I'd be interested to see where, HBO Max, by the way, only has 76 million viewers or 76 million subscriptions.
No, yeah. But I also imagine that this is, this must also be on terrestrial HBO, right?
Yeah. So that gives a sense of how popular Game of Thrones was initially and how much it came. And the few things that I noticed about House of Dragon was I liked that it had the same look and feel. But as you mentioned, it is era appropriate. But from if you think of how much the UK has changed over 172 years, or the US has changed over 172 years, it didn't really seem like there are a lot of advances in technology, medicine, living standards, food preparation, hygiene, right, in King's Landing. For better or for worse, it's kind of weird, I guess, as a society that they didn't really advance at all. But it makes it, I think, like you said, it's consistent with season 1 of Game of Thrones. And I think that the look and feel is very familiar. So my way, and I think I told you this, when we were between watching it, I'm like, if you like Game of Thrones, it seems like you'll probably like House of Dragon. If you didn't like Game of Thrones, like you're probably not going to like House of the Dragon. I mean, because they're very similar in terms of look and feel and era and style, right? If you're not into swords and dragons and stabbings, you're not going to like it, right? If you're not into
absolutely.
Kings and
I
Thrones,
think that
and stuff
definitely
like this.
holds true.
Yeah.
And I imagine that you had two kinds of people watching this show. People who actually genuinely loved Game of Thrones like we did.
Yeah.
And then there were also people who probably wanted to watch it, like almost like hate to watch it, which is to say, I'm watching it with the eye expecting this to be absolutely terrible. And I'm like, the show, this at least premiere episode was not terrible. It was really good. It
quite good.
Very concisely set up what is going to ultimately end up being the long-term, or at least the season-long conflict, right? The uncle versus the newly crowned crown princess.
I did an informal poll of my family, which is highly unscientific.
It's a very formal poll as long as I'm concerned.
Highly unscientific. But, I mean, I'm one of 6, right, in my family. And my family, I think every single person watched Game of Thrones, which really has to say something, right? My mom, my dad, brother, 2 sisters all watched Game of Thrones. I mean, that's HBO's wet dream in some way, right? So for everyone in that family to have watched Game of Thrones, I thought that was quite interesting. So I asked them if they were excited about House of the Dragon, and I got lukewarm responses from my brother and sister who said, yeah, we'll probably watch it. And my dad was like, yeah, but I'll probably wait for the whole season to come out and binge it. And my mom didn't even know it was coming.
Of course.
Which is, I think, characteristic of what you and I have said, which is if you're really a Game of Thrones power user, for example, you're stoked about House of the Dragon, like I was, like you were. If you're not, and you were kind of an armchair, hey, this thing is sweeping the world. We weren't part of the 9.3 million in season 1, but we're part of the 46 million in season 8. Yeah. You're probably going to say, oh, yeah, I kind of heard of that. I'll take a look at some point.
And I want to, or to that point, I want to be on the ground floor of this one. Because I don't want to be considered one of those Fairweather fans that joined in season 7 of a show that's now all of a sudden got 50 million people watching it.
Yeah. So I guess from a first episode, I agree with you. I thought it was very good that it set a few very clear pillars that will be a good foundation, right? It established the power for the Targaryens. I love the blonde hair that kind of identifies them as a master race. Mm-hmm. We, as you mentioned, we clearly see kind of like where this family rift is taking place. Question: was it wise to only release one episode, or would like a 1.5 hour episode or like a double episode have been better to really get everybody stoked or hooked?
I think they nailed it, because by the end of the episode, I was hooked.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I still have my fears, I was definitely in, because it was very concisely and clearly laid out as to what not the purpose, but the direction of the show. Mm-hmm. And again, as we've been fans of Game of Thrones, as you've pointed out, this is something that instantly felt familiar, even though it's set 172 years before Game of Thrones. It didn't feel like this is a whole new show. It felt like slipping into a comfortable pair of loafers that, we've owned for years. And it just felt right to watch it. And so, I was quite pleased with it, to be honest. It had, and as you would have expected, and I think, we didn't really talk about it, but I think we would have both predicted that there would have been 1 or 2 shocking scenes of gore and violence in there, which there were.
Yeah.
There was certainly, again, we didn't make that prediction, but I'm pretty sure if I hadn't, you definitely would have. We would have mentioned seeing a dragon. Not just because it's called House of the Dragons, but because we knew in Game of Thrones that the dragons kind of die out in this era. And we also know that there's some connection to the Targaryens and dragons as it is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see.
Can I make a little bit of a hot take? I thought this episode also was very, very good. Like, I did not leave disappointed. However, from a strategic perspective, I could have made an argument that you should have held off the childbirth and held off banishing Prince Daemon for the second episode, and instead in that first episode elongated it a little bit to just introduce a few characters from like other, call them provinces, or like other ruling families, because Game of Thrones itself was so good because it bounced around to a lot of different regions and a lot of different like things that were happening. And this episode, while it was just focused on kind of King's Landing, and I think that episode 2, I would expect that we move a little bit away from Daemon and we start to introduce some of the other characters, because we really haven't seen, I think, enough of the empire, the universe, you know, the thing, just to kind of like know a little bit more about who the other actors are going to be, because there's got to be some other dynamics that are going to play out if this is going to be 4 or 5 seasons, right?
I think I would normally have agreed with you if this had come out before Game of Thrones had come out. So I think that I would expect that a majority, I don't want to give a number, but I would say at least 80%, if not more, of the people who are watching this show are aware of the many different houses. They may not know them perfectly, but they know that, you know, the Starks are from the north. Yeah. They know that you have the, what was that, Pedro Pascal's family from the south. And, you know, there's a couple, the Greyjoys,
the Lannisters.
All of them, right? They again, maybe they don't know them intimately, but they're aware of the concept.
Yeah.
And I think that what this episode did really well was in that last scene when all the different houses are pledging their allegiance, you meet the Lannisters, you meet the Starks, you meet all of the other all the other families and houses of Westeros. You meet them when they're pledging their allegiance, and that kind of is like, aha, so the Starks are alive here, so we know there is a kingdom in the north. The Lannisters are here, so we know that there's a rich family to the west. And, you know, so you get to meet all of these families, so you may not see their families and their territories, but because we've already seen them, I don't think you need to see them again. Mm-hmm. Or at least not in the first episode. I think I like what they did structurally, which was to say, hey, the first episode is really about us showcasing the Targaryens, which we never really saw in Game of Thrones outside of Daenerys, right? Outside of Emilia Clarke and her crazy brother. I can't even remember her brother.
I can't even remember her. I mean, I remember the scene with her brother.
It's the same. He was named after the king by Viserys.
Oh. So he would have been, I guess we don't know, but he would have been, if you look at 172 years, he would have been like the great grandson.
Something like that. They mentioned it in that first season of Game of Thrones, and I can't remember. But yes, you're absolutely right. He would be like a couple generations behind, or ahead, rather.
2 or 3,
Yeah, so we know that. What I like is that this episode kind of just focused on the Targaryens. And what was really good is that we know from Game of Thrones that the Targaryens were kind of known for not being quite mentally all there. And that was probably because they're mostly a product of incest. We start to see bits and glimmers of that with Matt Smith, right? When he goes out with his gold cloaks and absolutely ravage the population, or when they take over that brothel, you can see glimmers of that mentally unstable trait that kind of perseveres in the Targaryens. You saw a little bit of the dragons in the daughter.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of the mental instability in in the uncle and Daemon.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit more color on the Targaryens, which is something that we never really got in Game of Thrones. We only heard through like stories or through legend and a little bit through Daenerys, but even she didn't really know because they've been in exile for so long.
You're right.
So we get let's say a first-hand account of that, which I think was the right move to do. And as you've predicted here, and I think we're going to credit this is, 100% on you. I imagine over the course of the next couple episodes, we're not necessarily going to follow exclusively on the Targaryens in King's Landing or Daemon out wherever he's been exiled to. I think what we're going to see is a little bit maybe of Daemon trying to rally his own group of people to kind of usurp the throne.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe he gets the Lannisters involved, maybe he gets the Starks involved, or whoever it is. I don't know. And obviously it won't be the Starks because they've been famously considered the good guys who would always rally with the king. So
is there a general rule of thumb? I mean, this is about like monarch law and not about decency. Is there a general rule of thumb that if your brother doesn't support you, you should probably take him out? Because just banishing him and giving him another job is probably not going to solve the problem, right? I mean, isn't that like just, if there's a rule book on being a king, it's like, hey, I've got a good brother, I'll keep him. I've got a power-hungry brother, I can't just give him a different job. Like, he's going to come for my head one day, I've got to take him out, right?
Yeah, unless you have an established heir, which they didn't. Yeah. Which they didn't until the end of this episode where they changed the laws so that women can also rule. Very progressive in that sense.
Yeah.
Very, very progressive in that sense. But I think that it's just probably a good idea to say that if you're going to have a brother, you take him out. Right? In this kind of environment, I think that's pretty fair to say that, hey, look.
Monarch law only. Let's put the disclaimer. That's monarch law only. Don't do that in real life with your brother.
Yes.
I have a brother. Not coming for you.
Films and stuff does not condone fratricide. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because this is just a recipe for disaster. Right? I think we can all see this coming. We've all seen enough shows, read enough books to know that this is where it's going to go. I would never expect Prince William to kill Prince Harry in the UK.
Well, Harry's the model. Harry's not only said, I'm coming for you, he said the opposite, which is, I want nothing to do with you.
You say that, but okay. I mean, that guy's a punk.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Do you think we should have an episode on the royals?
Oh, man.
I am in. I am in.
As an aside, I have so many thoughts, and all of them end very poorly for Harry and Meghan.
Oh, I have to say, I am a closet monarch fanatic. No longer closeted. I mean, I can talk about the royals. I watched
The Crown.
The Crown. I thought it was exceptional. I love all of these stories, and I'm highly, highly supportive of William, and I'm highly supportive of Harry when he comes back and just cries on my shoulder and says, I messed up, man. I really, really messed up.
I can't wait for that day. And when that day happens, let's be clear. Again, this is a very, very much an aside. I don't wish any ill will on them. I would never want anyone to have a marriage broken up or whatever. They've got 2 kids. I hope they're happy genuinely. But if that day comes, we will all say a collective, we told you so.
I want to say that he cannot be happy, but I have no basis for making that statement, except for the fact that I would expect that having given up everything that he's ever known to go live a kind of
quote-unquote
normalish,
commoner's life.
a commoner's life in Los Angeles. Like, I just imagine like there was a novelty at one point where everyone wanted to talk to him and wanted him to be involved in projects. And now that's kind of worn off. And right, it's like, okay, well, what can you do for us? You know, like you don't really have loads and loads of money anymore. You don't really have loads and loads of influence anymore. Are you suddenly like really creative or like experienced at anything? Like,
why Los Angeles of all
Yeah.
places? Like, it would have made way more sense if it was New York or even Chicago, like a financial powerhouse or a political powerhouse like DC. Los Angeles is 100% an entertainment city. You go there because you're somehow involved in the aesthetics industry or the movie making industry.
Yeah, actually, it's also a good point, which is, I mean, look, DC and New York are filled with sharks as well. But the Los Angeles sharks, right, are a special breed of sharks that really only care about popularity and clicks and views and, you know, news bits. They really don't care anything about your brain or anything else. It's simply, can you help me get to where I want to be in the entertainment industry, right? If you can, you're of use. If you're not of use. And I feel like that's kind of gone. Like Megan's not going to get, or maybe she will get roles. She's not going to accept a role in a film or a TV show anymore, right? She's that's
never been an A-list anything.
No, but that's well beneath her now to play mom of someone. Like, for example, in Stranger Things, if they said, hey, you want to be Joyce, right? Will's mom, she'd be like, no way. Like, I'm not playing a mom, right? I used to be married to a prince. I'm still married to the dude, but he's not a prince anymore. You know, like, I'm not going to be the mom of someone in a show. If you want to do a reality show about me and my glamorous life, sure, I'll be the star of that, but I'm not going to, you know, be the mom of someone in a Netflix series, right? So I think she's really limited in terms of what she would ever accept. Harry's not an actor. He's not in politics either. I mean, he's not an investor. He's not in, where does he fall?
Exactly. But at least you could use him as like a board member on a lobbyist group or even on a bank, because he's like, look, I'm not a politician or a banker, but guess what? I went to school with all of them, so I can definitely hook you up. I can connect you, put me on your board. That's something that happens all the time.
I agree with that, but I have to say the allure for something like that, I think Harry's lost a little bit, right? I mean,
100%.
I mean, it would have been, if he would have stayed in the UK and said, look, I'm really going to distance myself. I'm doing my own thing. I'm still part of the family, but I'm renouncing, for example, my rights to the throne. I'm going to just do my own thing. I'm not going to have any royal duties. He could have had a very, you know, like, he could have done like any type of like impact investing. He could have done charities. He could have done a lot of different things, and he'd still have that connection that would allow him to kind of raise money or get the meetings. Now that I think he's in the US, where he doesn't have any connection at all to the UK or anything to the US, I feel like a lot of people would say, yeah, that would be great. But at the end, what is he really able to do for someone?
Yep.
I feel
in fact, no one in Europe wants to work, or not Europe, but I feel like most people in the UK definitely wouldn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole, because they're just like, okay, you come with too much baggage with the royal family. I'm not interested.
And it doesn't really have a lot of like cachet in the US, right?
Not at all.
I imagine like the first few months were pretty good. Like Oprah wanted to interview them. They had a lot of like dirt to spill, and everyone wanted them to say something even more outrageous. But now I feel like that's all worn off. And I would expect that day-to-day life is not so easy. You got to take out your recycling bin. You got to buy your groceries. You've got an extraordinarily high bill to pay for all the people that you need around you, like support staff and stuff. Not a lot of, like, Netflix is not going to say like, hey, come in, design like a a curated, like portfolio for us, like they did to the Obamas, or maybe they could have done this like 5 years ago. Like there's just not a lot of cachet for that anymore,
Yep, we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I really wish it works out for them.
He was
but
one
I
of
won't
my.
be 100% shocked that
he was one of my favorite public figures. He really seemed like William's
he
a
was
robot.
the down to earth guy who was just like, listen, I know I'm never going to be king because I've got my father ahead of me and my older brother ahead of me, and everybody loves both of them, or at least everybody loves William more than me. Yeah. So I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to go to strip clubs. I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to be the prince with no responsibilities.
He was so good in the military. He was so good with the Invictus Games. Like, he really carved out, like, I thought, like, a good role for himself,
I was so disappointed with him when he was like, listen, I don't want to be a part of the royal family anymore. I don't want any of the duties, anything. I'm leaving. And then so when his father and his grandmother stripped him of his titles, then he throws a hissy fit and he says, wait, what are you doing? He's like, well, no, you said you didn't want any of these things. You can't remain the head of anything if that's the case. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
It's just, I thought that was really shameless. And then for a guy who's like, I really want my privacy, I don't want to talk about it. Let me go talk to Oprah about it. Let me go make $1 million deal with Netflix and Spotify or a podcast about it. I want to do all these things, but again, you can't have it both ways.
I agree. I think that's what rubbed me the wrongest way. I'm not sure if that's a word, but it was the wrongest way, which is if he says, hey, I just want to do my thing. I want to be with the love of my life. I want to raise kids in peace. Okay. Then don't give any interviews, right? Yep. And if you give an interview, don't crap on your family. Everyone's got a family we can all crap on our family if we wanted to, right? Like in big ways or in small ways, like that's just dirt that comes with being a family. We all have our warts, but there's really no reason for anyone, me, you, or Harry, to kind of say that out loud. It's just not cool, That should have, especially given
my dad and my grandfather. Yeah. My grandfather's dying. Let me give an interview about how he was such a dick and how the family is such jerks. These are not the things you do, not the right way. Write a tell-all memoir 20 years from now, that's one thing. Immediately thereafter, your granddad is literally on his deathbed and you're doing these kinds of interviews. Like, what a slap in the face. Oh, just terrible.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was really repulsive. And to be honest, until you and I have brought it up today, quite unexpectedly, I don't think we've heard about him in the news for ages, right?
The last I heard about him was when they repealed Roe versus Wade. He made some political comment, and he did. And then one of the justices was just like, "Who the hell are you that we should be listening? You're not even from here. You're British. Go back." So that was the last I heard of him.
Yeah, that's right. I do recall that statement. And whether or not it's not about agreeing or disagreeing, it's about, dude, like, you're really one of the least qualified people to be making a statement, right? I don't get involved whenever there's like a British court decision saying, hey, that was a bad decision by the British court. Like, why? I don't have any education in...
Not a woman, not an American citizen, not involved in politics, actively
not a
decided to get... Not a lawyer.
Not even a British barrister, right?
Actively decided to step away from political life of any kind. There's like 5-6 different hits against you. Maybe you should just sit this one out. You have your personal opinion, fair enough. We all do. But we're not all out there on Twitter talking about it.
Yuck. I still feel sad for the guy. Deep down, I like you said, I think in years from now, they will be divorced. Meghan will be I think, not the victim, but she will be in a much better position. And Harry will have to tuck his tail between his legs, return to the UK, and it's going to be grossly humiliating for him. And I would expect that Meghan's then going to write a book about what an awful person Harry was.
Of course.
And
she did how terrible the family was.
Yes.
All of that.
Yes. And she's going to probably say that he was abusive, or he was depressed, or she did her best to introduce him to people, and he didn't want to do this, and he didn't want to do that. And ultimately, she just had to give him his walking papers. Ugh, repulsive story overall.
I feel bad. I mean, again, I don't want any of that to happen, but if it happens, A, it won't be a shock, and B, I hope that William and Kate kind of be like, look, just come back quietly. None of this has to be talked about publicly. You're still our brother. We love you. And then let's move on with our lives.
Even better. Films and Stuff has a UK office. We are right. Can we commit right now that Harry always has a place?
That's right.
Alongside.
He can be our third co-host. We are not controversial in any way, shape, or form.
He'd be like, okay, guys, what are you first up? So we're going to be talking about The Crown. Have you watched it?
Watched it? I'm living it, buddy. Here we go.
What did you think of it?
What's hilarious is they could probably ask Meghan Markle to play herself in The Crown.
And she should.
Oh, she totally would if she could.
Yes.
Anyway, terrible tangent.
Not a terrible tangent, but a tangent. So that is our review of House of Dragon. Do we have anything to say since we're talking about shows that just came out? Do we have anything to say about She-Hulk?
I saw the second episode of She-Hulk, and unfortunately, I gotta say, for the audience, for the general public, it's a skip. Don't waste your time. That's not to say that Ethan and I won't watch it. We will, or certainly I will, but I'm telling you, it is not worth watching.
I will not. I have the same feelings about She-Hulk. I started with moderate expectations. It is not funny. It's not interesting. There's no good special effects. There's no good action. The whole thing is just off A to Z. Honestly, they need to take a page from DC. They need to just rip it up and either shelve it or start from scratch. I'm really sorry to say it. It is a hard skip. Please find something better to do with your time. Do not watch She-Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry about it. In a couple weeks, we're going to have Andor. So if you're itching to watch something on Disney
I am
Plus,
itching. I am itching.
Just go ahead straight to Andor. Anyway, so that's Game of Thrones. At the moment, my preview feeling on I keep saying Game of Thrones, on House of the Dragon is that it is at worst case a mooch, at best case a must subscribe. I'm going to hedge my bets only because I'm still a little afraid to open my heart fully. Let's see where we land after this Sunday. But at the moment, I'm a mooch.
I'm going to say it's a subscribe for the following reasons. One, it's going to be highly watched, and we know that it's going to be committed to for a few seasons. It's not going away. Two.
Oh, speaking of which, sorry,
yes.
Forgive me for interrupting. They just renewed it for season 2 as of this morning.
There we go. Two, you will make a lot of friends by people who want to mooch it from you. Yeah. Make yourself more popular. Take advantage of your friends who want to mooch it. Netflix is $9.99 a month. Go subscribe. This
Max.
Is on HBO Max. Is $9.99 a month. Watch it on HBO Max. Enjoy it and have watching parties with all your friends. You'll make a lot of friends by being someone who has a subscription, and you'll be able to watch it and will not have to deal with any spoilers either.
Yeah, I imagine I will very quickly turn myself into a must subscribe as well. Again, I'm just hesitant only, and this is purely a Pete issue. I've been burnt. I've got to let my heart open up some more, but I expect I'll get there.
Help Pete to love again. That's the theme
right.
of this.
If you've got other thoughts on House of Dragons or even Game of Thrones, what you wish that they're going to explore, what you think they're going to explore, if you have any theories. At the moment, I have no real theories. This is entirely an original work of fiction. So if you've got some ideas, why don't you reach out? Aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com or at F&S Podcast on Twitter. Let us know what you think is going to happen or what you hope is going to happen. Is there a cameo you hope to see? Do you think we're going to see the Wall? Do you think we're going to see more of the Starks or of the Lannisters? Let us know.
I feel one day, Pete, it's going to be you and Harry, and you're going to be singing this duet, Learn to Love Again. Yeah, you'll each be going through your own emotional journey, learning to love again. One person moving on from Meghan Markle, one person moving on from season 8 Game of Thrones, right? And I'll be encouraging you both.
Okay.
Every step of that journey.
You heard it here first.
Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next time. Films and stuff. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.